I get here? How did my life crash so hard? After I left the Marines, my life looked incredible on paper. I went to graduate school, I took a huge gamble, and at 29 years old, I bought a deli and became a small business owner. I even used my GI Bill to go to flight school and secured my commercial pilot's license. I had built what anyone would call a successful, productive life. I was doing the Marine thing, discipline, hard work, constant forward movement. But then, substance abuse quietly took the wheel. It didn't happen overnight. It was a slow 10-year burn that eventually grew to consume my entire existence. And naturally, it destroyed everything. I became abrasive, confrontational. I racked up over $100,000 in debt. I was arrested multiple times and spent time in county jail. Looking back, you might ask, say, wasn't that a wake-up call? But if you truly understand what addiction does, you know the one thing that buries into your mind and takes total control is complete, absolute apathy. I didn't care that my life was falling apart. I didn't care about the times that my heart and my body felt like it was literally about to explode. I didn't care about the times I completely blacked out behind the wheel in the middle of a stoplight. All I cared about was feeding the beast. I lost a business, I was evicted from my apartment, and at 40 years old, the only shelter was in the driver's seat of my car. If you want to get a true, unfiltered sense of what my reality was like, go watch Nick Shirley's video on his interviews in the streets of Kensington. I was those people. No care for how you look, how you smell, or what you had to do to survive. Just somehow scraping enough money every single day just to immediately spend it on drugs. Every single day. Winters in Kensington were brutal. I would huddle under 3 layers of blankets and the cold would still freeze me to the bone. At least I had a vehicle, but it always barely had any fuel in it, so idling wasn't an option. I would literally walk up to the pump, put 75 cents in the gas tank, just enough fuel to get me to my blocks, and then back into the Lowe's parking lot. My girlfriend was with me, trapped in the same exact cycle, fighting the same exact demons. I was always the optimistic one. I'd look at her through the dark and say, we'll get help, we'll make a change. It's just a matter of time. But in the back of her mind, she believed the truth. She thought we were never going to make it out of Kensington alive. Then something finally clicked. It wasn't an overdose, it wasn't some grand epiphany or revelation. It was simply a cold, hard realization that our clock was ticking down to zero. We had been out here on the asphalt for an entire year. Our bodies were actively falling apart. It was a miracle that we weren't arrested again or end up just another overdose statistic on the street. We were completely out of options, so I had to figure out what to do. I remembered I had about 6 months left on my GI Bill benefits. I decided I was going to use them to go back to flight school, this time for helicopters. The school was all the way out in Phoenix, Arizona, so I applied and I got accepted. The plan was simple: use the housing allowance to get an apartment in Phoenix, cut ties with the street, and somehow piece our lives back together. We actually believe we can just wean ourselves off of the hardest chemical dependencies on Earth while driving across country. We managed to stop one substance cold turkey before we left, but we knew the other one would be 1,000 times more difficult, painful, and violent. So we scrounged together every single cent we had to buy 7 full bundles. We told ourselves that these 7 bundles will last through the entire cross-country trip and carry us to our first week in Arizona. If you want to understand the terrifying level of dependency, those 7 bundles only lasted us for 7 days. And that was our grand plan. We thought we could just cross state lines, outrun the chaos, and escape that life completely unscathed. We drove cross country, fueled with desperation and a ticking clock. And finally, we pulled up to our Airbnb in Phoenix. But then, just a couple of hours after our last use, the withdrawals began. You always hear people talk about how bad withdrawals are. You hear about the nausea, the pain, the body aches, and you think, oh, it's just like being sick for a couple of days. Get some bed rest, some chicken soup, and you'll be fine. No, 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 no. It is the most agonizing, mind-ripping, body-tearing experience a human being can endure. And with how potent and powerful today's street drugs are, they are deeply ingrained into every single cell of your body and mind. In my case, my system couldn't handle the shock. Within just a couple of hours of coming down, I suffered a massive seizure. I was convulsing on that Arizona bathroom floor so violently that Emily, who was barely functioning herself because of her own withdrawals, had to scramble to get her phone. My very last memory in that Airbnb was looking up through the chaos and telling her, Emily, you need to call 911. And then, total darkness. A couple of days later, I opened my eyes and I woke up in a hospital bed. When I finally opened my eyes, I was completely disoriented. I felt like absolute garbage. And I quickly learned that Emily and I had been rushed to separate emergency rooms because my seizures required special neurological care. I spent 3 agonizing days in that hospital, but my mind was entirely locked on one objective. I had to get out, and I had to find Emily. So against the strict, urgent advice of the entire medical staff, I checked myself out. I had been admitted with nothing but my underwear and a pair of shorts. Because of that, I literally walked out of the hospital doors with no shoes and only a hospital gown. If you've never experienced a Phoenix summer, let me put it into perspective for you. I spent 19 months deployed in the Afghan desert as a Marine, and Phoenix in June felt like hell. A good Samaritan eventually spotted me and helped me back to my Airbnb. The hosts were understandably furious, and they packed all of our belongings and thrown them into the garage. Once I retrieved my phone, I finally tracked down Emily's location and rushed to her side. What she went through was infinitely more harrowing than my experience. Emily had gone to full cardiac arrest multiple times. She was now intubated in the ICU, fighting for her life, and had to get an emergency tracheotomy to help her breathe. She was barely conscious, but when I looked at her, I knew she was there. At that point, her mother and stepfather from South Carolina rushed in to be by her side. And thank God for them. They didn't arrive guns blazing with accusations, hatred, or disgust. They were just genuinely, profoundly grateful that we were both still breathing. But after a few days, the reality of my situation set in. Emily was going to spend the next month confined in the ICU, but I had absolutely nowhere to go. No money, no home, no one left to call. I thought I was completely alone in the desert. So I pulled up the VA website on my phone. I clicked on the Veterans Crisis link and I typed in 3 simple words: I need help. Those 3 words completely rerouted my entire life trajectory. They gave me a second chance to execute a hard reset. I spent the next week inside a psychiatric ward to safely manage the violent chemical withdrawals that were still ravaging my nervous system. From there, I was transferred to a month-long VA substance abuse program, and I was surrounded by incredible fellow veterans. True brothers and sisters in arms who were suffering through the exact same darkness. They listened, they understood, they supported me, and that program saved my life. Armed with a completely new love for life, a clean foundation, a hard reset, I was finally released back to the world. On June 6, 2025, Emily and I's paths split so we could heal. For 4 months, we stayed separate. I was grinding through my recovery in the VA facility in Phoenix, while Emily moved back cross country with her parents to South Carolina. And when I finally completed that program, I packed my bags and moved to South Carolina. We got our very own place here in Surfside Beach. We adopted a couple cats, we secured steady, honest jobs, and the incredible news just keeps coming. Today we are engaged, and even more amazing, we have our own little baby on the way. Amazing, miraculous things happens in the world when you finally commit to doing the right things. There's a Latin phrase I love and live by: Venti secundis tenda cursum. With favorable winds, maintain the heading. So where does PC building come into all of this? While I was recovering in the VA domiciliary, one of my fellow veterans I met was an avid gamer. He actually had a brand new Nintendo Switch with him when he checked in, and it was awesome playing Mario Kart World with him. It brought me back. I grew up playing NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, but ever since college I lost track of gaming. And then later when I ran to Delhi, I had a PS4, and really the only games I played was Resident Evil remakes and Metal Gear Solid 5. So it's been a long time since I truly gamed, and I had missed out on so many legendary titles throughout the years. My veteran friend was a massive PC gamer too. He looked at me one day and said, "Say, you gotta build your own rig. It completely trumps consoles. It's a whole different level." You know, the usual things PC people say. At first I was skeptical. I was like, I don't know. I grew up on consoles. I don't know computers well. I've been using the same laptop for 11 years. But then I started looking into it, and it quickly grew on me. Learning about the different architectures, the competing brands, the intricacies of the building process, I dove into it head first. And that's when the light bulb went off. I realized this wasn't just a hobby. This was a perfect asset for my recovery. I needed something to occupy my mind, something to block out the traumatic echo of my past I had just survived. Along the way, I thought it would be incredible to share my learning, my research, and the fascinating tech archaeology of it all. Now, some of you may ask, why 5 months? Well, as you can imagine, my credit was completely shot from the past. I couldn't even qualify for basic leasing program. That's how bad it was. I had to save money slowly, piece by piece, to build up the necessary funds. But honestly, this is the fiscally disciplined way, and this is a more satisfying journey. I needed something with clear steps, clear goals, and a clear definitive climax. Building this rig gives me exactly that. I know people say this is the worst time to build a PC because of the RAM shortage, and I totally understand that, but honestly, I don't worry about the price tags. What matters to me isn't the cost. What matters is the discipline, the anticipation, and the execution of that mission. This upcoming September build isn't just a PC. It is living proof that a Marine captain who lost absolutely everything can still execute a new mission. 1 year sober today, 1 year of doing the right thing, 1 year of maintaining the heading. And if you're a veteran out there watching this right now who is struggling, someone who is completely lost, go to the Veterans Crisis Line, call them, text them. You can even chat with them online, but simply say the words, "I need help," and they will guide you through the rest of the way. If you're watching this and you're currently trapped in your own wreckage, whether it's addiction, a dark chapter, or just the terrifying feeling of being completely lost, I want you to hear this truth. Your system can always be rebuilt. You can always turn it around. The mission doesn't end when you take a hit and fall. The mission only truly ends if you stop getting back up. The PC build is my new battlefield, the squadron is growing, and I'm grateful every single day that I get to share with you.